So I'm not gonna lie here. The reason I've been acting so extra crazy here lately is because not only do I believe myself to have been like trafficked, but I believe that I came across such a trafficking ring, not only locally but internationally. So like it would tie into, you know, like Jeffrey Epstein, Hollywood, presidents, all the way down to like locally. It's absolutely like insane. And I'm just like sitting here and I'm like, oh because it started like this. Like I clearly have two children and they, you know, I have photos of them and they clearly look a certain way. And then like, you know, like you're just randomly like scrolling through Facebook, you know, whatever, and suddenly you're like, oh, this person's kid kind of looks just like my kid. And so you raise an eyebrow because it's like you can't really prove it. You know, they're going to be weird about it if you ask them. So like clearly, as a very passionate individual, and I am a very passionate individual who enjoys focusing on things, I would begin focusing on exactly this, because there's some like weird occurrences that occurred while I was pregnant and stuff, which made me already like suspect this. There were certain things stated, there were certain things like done that made me be like, something is just really off here, and I just keep getting this like this bad feeling, and like someone's going to take my children, and like something bad's going to happen, and just so I just kept looking because I kept feeling like there's all these like secret children, and I'm like, you know, like I can't be like tripping this bad. Like why would anybody suddenly like sit there and think there's all kinds of like kids running around that belong to like your husband or something, you know, like the person you have children with. And so like I keep looking, you know, just scrolling through Facebook just randomly, and looking at people's public photos that they post, and you know, not saying anything, just looking at them and comparing and contrasting back and forth. And then suddenly I'm like, this is really weird. It's not only one kid, it's this kid, it's this kid, and this kid. And then what I noticed is like a lot of these kids also seem to have health problems, okay? Like some sort of like birth defect or some sort of like other major like issue, like with the heart or something, you know, like all these children have, a lot of these children seem to have some sort of like something wrong with them. And so, not all of them, but some of them. And so I'm over here just like, this is really weird. And all these people, you know, who have these children that I'm thinking are these secret children, they're also like over here, you know, like supporting St. Jude's and like any of these donation things, you know, like, you know, like the Shriners and other such organizations. And usually like for their birthdays, you know, like how Facebook will ask you, you know, like, do you want to share this on your birthday to donate to a certain cause or whatever? These individuals will always like, or usually share like such a link involving one of these like charities or organizations. And so it's like, okay, on top of this, all these individuals have very particular like jobs or careers. This includes either being like a stay-at-home mom and having like a bunch of kids, or it includes them being in like the healthcare sector of some sorts, like i.e. nurses, rehabilitation like places of any sorts, like disability places, schools, you know, just very even like ultrasound places and stuff like that. I guess that falls into nurses. Either way, there's just a whole just network of them is the best way to like describe them. And usually they're friends and families, and they're people that know each other or are from the like same town or area. And usually these individuals have large families and cousins and who knows what else, all just spread out all over the place, okay? But they're all just like interconnected, is the best way to describe it. And in a lot of cases they are also like family members and they are related. This also includes I believe this also includes some, not all, police, and also people within the judicial system, the governmental system, just CPS, DCS, like I think the entire just human services departments have something to do with this, okay? Like not everyone, but if you're like one of their family members or one of their friends, you know, and that happens to be your job, you probably know about it, and you're probably somehow like part of it too. And I believe this also includes the like Masons. I believe that they have a hand to play in this. You know, like just organizations.
Are you peeing? What are you doing? You were peeing.
And I feel like it began with men, okay? The reason why I state this is because a man may, in one single night, get 10 females pregnant. A female, on the other hand, has to carry a child for 9 months, and then it is recommended to even wait like a year and a half before you even have another child due to, you know, like healing and stuff. You know, there's a large difference between men and women when it comes to such, you know, a sector, okay? And, you know, a lot of men are very forceful. You know, they have a lot of passionate excitement that they are ready to share with the world. And, you know, some of these men might have wives and children and like a family, and, you know, let's just pretend like I'm a man, and now like suddenly, you know, like I have a child and a wife because I'm a man, and I then, you know, like I don't tell my wife that like a few years before I met her, I like donated some sperm, for example, you know, and like because I don't tell my wife this, now, you know, when my wife is over here looking on Facebook or some sort of other social media site, suddenly she begins seeing all these children that look just like her own children with her spouse. And clearly any female would be like, hold up here. Like, hold up, there's something like going on here, because that would be like really like bad, that would be like really bad. You don't want, as a female, you're selfish when it comes to your man, and you don't want to share what I consider the most precious part of them, like their essence, with the entire world, is the best way to put it. And it's very simple for a male to do this. A male can just like go 5 seconds and bing, like a male can just do it really fast, lots of them all at once, and then in the end there could be lots and lots of children running around, and like nobody would ever confirm it. So here's the deal, like there's fertility treatments that people can do and like pay for, and they start at around like $500 and something, and it goes up from there. So not everybody can afford such, and not everyone might be in a relationship, or they might be transgender or gay or lesbian, and it could be just any sort of person, that might want a child. And so while I do not believe this to be fully legal because it's unregulated, it turns out that on Facebook and potentially other sites, there are certain groups you can join where you give out free sperm donations. Like, you don't pay. In other words, like, as a female, I advertise myself on this website, and I'm like, hey, I'm looking for a male, this height, these eyes, etc., and if there's a sperm donor, I call them sperm dealers, that matches, like the criteria that you're looking for, healthy, STIs, whatever else, then they can respond, and you can meet up, and you have like various options as to how to, as a female, get inseminated. That includes actual physical contact, as in doing the deed. It includes AI or AL. There's like various like methods that can be used to do this. Now the issue is that some of these donors do get paid, others, I'm assuming, don't. They just probably just do it, and you just like meet up, and you have usually like an honor code, like a verbal like contract, where you're just like, yeah, I won't come after you for child support, I won't come after my child, like that's kind of it. Like, I'm just inseminating you and you get this child, and that's just the end of it, and some of these males have quite a few children. There is one individual who's like an admin to this group, and several other of these free sperm donation groups who I kind of like messaged and talked to, and I like checked out his group, and I asked him all these like questions about exactly like this, like like how does this like work, and the legality of it. It's not every state recognizes these verbal contracts, and if you had some sort of physical contact or did the deed to get this child, then technically, in reality, the female could go after you for child support, even if there is a verbal contract otherwise. The male stated, like that's why they have these other treatments available, where you essentially, like put your essence into a cup, and then, you use like a syringe, and it gets placed in there through methods of such sorts. But even the females who choose such an option, and there would be just a verbal contract, could in reality claim, even if it is not true, that this male was physically with them and did the deed, and thus go after them for child support in some cases, and this would create a lot of chaos. This is clearly like an underground thing. Clearly it is being advertised on Facebook. Facebook is a place that allows people 13 years and older to be part of, and like, you could easily, as a child, enter one of these groups also, and that is important to note. But this is only one of the problems that I see with advertising such a thing on Facebook. Now let me explain something. I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing, okay? I believe that a lot of these people, part of this, and this literally, like if you are in this group or in one of these groups, it's not just local donors, it's just like a local group that you go into, but inside of this local group, there might also be advertisements from people from another state or from around the world somewhere. So that's how it like starts tying in internationally. And if you click around, some of these places are what appears to be like underground fertility clinics, almost, also, like in a way, like they advertise themselves. And the problem is with having such a group, and it being unregulated. Number one, as I mentioned earlier about, me thinking that there's a bunch of secret children running around and some of them having some sort of birth defects, and me believing that they came from donors, that as I was looking through this group, I noticed that a lot of these donors or these sites really recommend taking a variety of vitamins, that you can just like get in the store to make the sperm mobility, like better. Like you want more sperm, better sperm, the healthiest sperm. So a lot of these males, part of these underground sperm donation sites, along with even some females, are advertised, like, or recommended from even other users. Hey, I take these vitamins. What vitamins do you take? And there's like a whole list of them, like 10 of them or 5 of them that they take. And here's the problem with these vitamins, okay? Number one, if you buy like the cheap vitamins, they're usually in plastic bottles, number one. And number two, they are made out of these like gel-like capsules. And these gel-like capsules, along with these plastic bottles, both contain and may release certain microplastics within your body. And so you're thinking, oh, well, nah, you're just like, whatever, what are you talking about? But here's the problem with these microplastics, okay? The problem is that it would then clearly go into the male's sperm, or if a female is taking these vitamins, that they, go into the female's body in some sorts. And when your body has microplastics inside of them, what it affects is the endocrine-like system. The endocrine-like system is your hormone system, like your hormones. It also has to do with pregnancy, puberty, just any sort of like physical changes, amongst other like things, just how your body functions. And clearly when you want to become pregnant or carry a child, or, if you are the sperm donor, you do not want to be full of microplastics, even though the entire world is to a small extent. Like there's so much plastic, so everybody has a little bit in it. But if you take a lot of these vitamins every day, then this builds up, or it has the potential to build up along with your just overall lifestyle. And that has an effect on this endocrine system, which then has the potential to cause your hormones to fluctuate in ways that they're not supposed to. And when your hormones fluctuate in ways they're not supposed to, it can ultimately also lead to certain genetic factors being altered or malfunctioning. These fluctuating hormones can cause certain increases or even decreases in gene expressions. And what that means is that, your gene has a certain jobs it's supposed to do, and that's it. You do these jobs, and that's it. You follow these instructions, that's your job. And when these hormones fluctuate, these genes, who then help produce these hormones, need to overexpress themselves in some cases because, you know, these fluctuating hormones are all off now because of the microplastics inside of your body. And since they're overexpressing themselves or even underexpressing themselves because, you know, kind of like they get blocked, the hormones that get released due to these microplastics. And when genes are overexpressed or underexpressed, like your actual genetic code, then clearly it can potentially cause issues for a developing fetus. And as a female, you know, if your placenta, you know, what carries your baby, it largely, you know, functions on specifically the hormone levels inside your body being a very particular way, you know, at certain levels to properly develop, you know, like a child and to ensure that this pregnancy goes all the way through. And this includes like a placenta rupturing or anything of the sorts, you know, like it can even cause, you know, like the restricted uterine syndrome, which is what like I suffered from with my like second, where like, you know, there's not enough like space inside like your uterus because of like scar tissue and stuff, and like there's all kinds of like weird stuff, but that's probably because I was pregnant twice in a row. But I don't know, I'm not so sure because my like middle daughter, she was born with like a little the spina bifida, like a little bit. It wasn't exposed, but she was born with spina bifida, and I sometimes like really wonder about that also. And like with both my pregnancies, like I was like diabetic, and normally like I'm not diabetic as far as I know, but I also don't really normally like eat a lot of sugar. Like sometimes I either go on sugar rushes, sometimes I don't. But a lot of these children clearly have various birth defects and birth marks, and the issue is with these free donation sites is that none of this is getting like documented properly or regulated, and that means that like a single man can, like I looked through videos and stuff, like I looked researched more into it. There was like this one man, he had like 56 kids, and then there was this other guy who had like 100 kids or something. And the reason this is concerning is because if it happens like locally in one area, the chance of like inbreeding goes up as like the generations go by, because all these children, they're like undocumented, you know, like because of these free donations that this male is just giving, and who knows how many donations he gave. And now there's all these children walking around, and they grow up, and then they themselves, you know, look for a partner, and if they are all in one area, that might increase the chances of like birth defects, and that would be like not good at all. And that could also increase the risk of birth defects, and that's exactly one of the problems. And I guess that also answers the question as to why it appears like there's so many birth defects, even not only because of the like potential microplastic and vitamins that they're consuming, in some cases, in which case go get a glass bottle. You're supposed to ensure that you have a glass bottle, like the vitamins are in a glass bottle, and that they do not have like certain like chemicals like in them. Like try to stay away from like the gel capsules, in other words. You know, it'd be good if vitamins came like in powders or little gummies you can chew, just anything that isn't necessarily like these weird little oil capsules. Like clearly some of these sperm donors aren't getting like checked, and they live whatever lifestyle probably, and some of these people might just be horny dudes who are just getting a bunch of people pregnant just because they can. And it's like another hookup site is the best way to put it in some cases, and like in a very twisted like way that would be almost like hush hush and underground, because like you can't have everybody knowing like you have a bunch of children walking around. Now if it's like internationally, that's like a different story. Like if you have a bunch of kids and they're all more like spread out internationally, then you know it decreases the risk of there being like birth defects or other such things. And ultimately, you know, like Jeffrey Epstein was into like Scientology and genetics and altering genetics and like all this types of stuff. And I feel like this is like the beginning of it, and that's how it like not ties into Hollywood, because clearly it's international, but also because it has to do with genetics. And there might be, I feel like it should be required by law in the United States, like federally, that every single individual from birth, you know, like the day you're born, needs to get DNA tested, and that everybody's DNA needs to be inside of a database, kind of like, you know, what they did during COVID. So like it can be like connected together using today's technologies and like AI to, you know, connect everything together properly. And from there, you know, as people who work with science and with genetics and altering such, because clearly the entire world believes in, you know, altering genetics through these COVID vaccines, that they can then, from there, legally, it can be ensured that there isn't a bunch of people in one single area locally having children that grow up together and may in the future reproduce, because we don't want this incest to occur due to these birth defects, and that can be controlled along with, you know, putting certain guidelines and things as to what they take, keeping track of all these children. I need to clarify something about the strawberry birthmark. Like the whole reason that I started believing that this one particular child, you know, as I was looking through Facebook, was somehow related to my children, was because when it was an infant, it had like a strawberry birthmark is the best way to describe it. And this was kind of curious to me, because as an infant, this infant looks like my youngest child, and as this child has gotten older, like the strawberry birthmark was removed, as it has gotten older, this child, it looks like my oldest daughter, and that just troubles me. It just really troubles me that I keep seeing all these children that look like my children. Like, I hate it. I really do not like it at all. Like I did like message the individual about this too, and what's curious and what is really like even more like suspicious is the fact that like my husband's sister has like this issue, along with like the child she gave birth to also had birthmark like that. And you know, this child was born right before my middle daughter, and that right there, just putting those two things together made me realize, you know. So I like messaged a girl and I asked her about it, and while she didn't, she did go through this sperm donation, this free sperm donation site, and along with like being from the same area as my husband and other such things. She indirectly, like at the end, she indirectly, like vaguely admitted to it, like towards the end, that she has ties to it. And I was like, you know, this is kind of weird. And then she immediately like took all her photos down of her child. And the whole reason I found this donor site is because I was looking at these photos, and the donation like dude that I was talking to liked the photo of this child. Huh. The donation dude would like the photos of this child, and I can only hope that this donation dude is not my husband, and that it is some like other random person that I was speaking to, and that wasn't his like fake profile or something like that, because they don't like show their identity. And I feel like that's kind of like twisted, because I feel like, like, and if any of this were to be true, like for some reason, if any of this were to be true for some reason, as in like there's a bunch of people walking around who got underground free sperm donations, and if for some reason my husband was one of these donors, that whether there was any sort of physical action or even not, that any of these children, like any of these mothers, you cannot come after him for child support, cannot come after myself, because otherwise, like, I will hold everybody accountable, because I didn't know, like, all of these people seem to have been aware of what they were doing, and they joined these sites. I was seeked out by this individual, it appears, and, like, I felt like I was being set up by an entire town, as I always say, that there was all kinds of things setting me up, and that certain events within my life almost seemed like orchestrated, like a targeted individual for like sperm. Like this individual for some reason saw me online make videos, and they were like, how am I going to get to this individual? And somehow they got recruited into this, or they just like did this for some reason. And I feel like once you're like recruited into this, and once you like do this, that it's like an unspoken thing. Like everybody covers for each other, because you wouldn't want somebody else to know that might have a problem with this. So everybody kind of like hushes about it. But then comes into issue like, hey, if you ever want to have a family of your own and get married, and then suddenly there's a bunch of children walking around, that's like a problem, clearly. Because I was not aware of this, nor do I consent to this, nor was I like, would I have ever had children with this individual if I would have been aware of this, which is probably why, I was set up to begin with. And I find it really unfortunate that this individual potentially may be the father. I really hope not. Like, I hope I'm wrong. I want someone to prove me wrong. But it's not looking that way, if you want me to be honest. And I have a feeling that's why this individual would get so, like, if for some reason all this were to be true, I believe that that's probably why this individual was so angry towards me. And the phone and the key incident, and always taking like my phone and breaking them, and not wanting me to have any like online access, because they didn't want me to put two and two together, I guess, because I guess maybe they realized, that I was the way that I am, and that I would just like look into it and eventually come across it. And that's exactly what seems to be happening. And if this were to be true, I would like this individual to like talk to me like face to face. Like I need the entire truth and like all the details. I'm a female, I need the details. And my children will have if for some reason this were to be true, my children will have nothing, absolutely zero to do with any of these children. This individual must select myself and my children over everybody and anything, any children they may have, just any of it. I will leave this area if this is true. There's no way in hell that I would stay in this area with my children around such people who hid such stuff from me, and then just like walked around and would stare at me and laugh at me and talk. Like, no. And like just do just weird stuff. It's not okay. I love my husband, and this surely would be unfortunate, but Like, my husband could never in his entire life be with anybody else again, and there better not be any, like, other children of any sorts walking around. Like, my child is the last child. There is not going to be another child, and every child needs to, like, be DNA tested, like, ever. Every adult and every child and every baby born, just everybody needs to get DNA tested. And just, for future eugenics, for future just, like, scientific advances to cure diseases. Like, it appears that all these people who are part of these free donation sites also heavily support, these St. Jude's and all these other, organizations that deal with such potential genetic issues caused by, inbreeding potentially, or other such, like plastics, or just the environment you're around, your lifestyle, just your overall health and own genetics, just all of it. And that it seems to be much higher where such things occur, and that that's the reason why. And honestly, I find it very unfortunate for the children, like, whoever these males and these females are who support this underground thing, this underground sperm donations, what I consider human trafficking almost, child trafficking in a sense, baby trafficking, I don't know. Like, you're honestly, like, super selfish, and common sense should let everybody know that someone on this site is probably already, like, a particular way, especially if they're male. They're probably, like, borderline pedophiles, and, like, I'm assuming that, like, they look for certain people. Like, you want to look for somebody who's healthy that you want to impregnate, you would look for young people, you would look for people you just like, like, the way they look, just their health, just, you would look for certain things. And I feel like a lot of young people potentially may be a target in such a thing, and you don't even have to be part of such a site. I feel like these people are just part of the community, and they talk, and if they see someone they like, or if you're, like, poor or something like that, they will try to come after you for some reason in some cases. Like, whether you're a female and they breed you, in other words, like, you're a breeder, and you're expected to stay at home, like, traditional values almost, and the male just apparently gets to, like, do whatever. And it's selfish knowing that potential inbreeding can happen. Like I said, it's kind of like common sense, and that this is the, like, probably a large reason why a lot of these birth defects exist to begin with. And that it's, like, almost cruel that you would support such a thing for this reason alone, because it increases the chance of the children having some sort of, like, defects, being, like, born with defects, like, themselves, and it potentially being, like, life-threatening, like cancer and stuff like that. And what's also, like, really questionable is, like, how do you know that, since these people are supporting such organizations and are, like, nurses and in the health field and in the school field, and, like, sometimes maybe even police officers, that they, like, are not helping, like, cover this up, themselves in some sort of way, by any means necessary, regardless of what rules or laws they may or may not break in the process to continue, like, covering such a thing up. And then pushing on these trafficked victims. They push mental health services, then afterwards, like, they push them, and it's, like, as sick as it possibly gets, because in the mental health sector, they are also part of it, probably, some of the people, because some of these people are caseworkers, and, like, et cetera, and that right there, it's all about money. In other words, the entire world is about money, okay? Now, the thing is, if for some reason all this is true, on top of this, it puts my children's health at risk, because my husband was taking such particular vitamins in the beginning, which is, like, now that I'm looking back, is kind of concerning now that I know about all of this. And like, I'm number one worried about these microplastics, and then I don't want my children's health to be affected. Certain women are supporting all of this because they believe in, we can start our own little family and just get a sperm donor, and we can do it by ourselves, we don't need a partner. Well, I love having a partner, just FYI. Like, I always need someone beside me, and, like, I like having someone with me and helping me. I want a partner. And many women might want to be the strong woman who wants to do it alone and go to work and whatever it is that the media, like, pushes about successful women, and, like, traditional versus traditional values of women being in the kitchen and stuff. And I would much rather, I would much rather have a partner by my side and have help versus doing it alone. Because why not? Together is better than alone. And just imagine how many more just males and females are out there. Like, you could be a married female right now, and your husband could have done these sperm donations, and you know nothing about it. Or, there's just all kinds of weird things occurring, and it's not okay. That's why the DNA needs to be exposed of everyone. This is literally not a joke to me, and just to make it fair on all the females who are involved in this and who didn't know, like, if your husband or spouse or somebody you have children with did this, and you were unaware, and they have a bunch of children walking around, that I have time traveled before, and all this has happened before, because there's just certain things that made me think so. And everything is a mirror image of itself. That includes the universe and time itself, and like every dimension and everything flip-flops. So at one point or another in time, and at one point in one dimension, I am really my husband with all these children, and he's me making this video being like, hold up, you know, because he would be the female and I would be the male, you know. Or it could even be flip-flopped in another dimension that I as the female have done this and he as the male hasn't done this, you know. That any possibility is possible, and I believe they all have happened, and that it flip-flops. So to all the women who are about to be like super upset maybe potentially because of this, because they didn't realize this before, just know that to dust we go, and what it means to, you know, your soul, your spirit is energy. And when one dies, this energy is released. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. You know, energy is transferred. So it says, you know, you come from the dust, you go back to the dust. Oh, well, that technically would imply nothingness, right? But that is simply not true. What it is implying is that it's like almost like a type of reincarnation cycle. Not really reincarnation exactly, but in a sense, your energy and your body breaks down into everything that surrounds you, which is either non-living or living, and then your energy transfers to the next like thing that it can grab onto, and eventually all these sequences, you know, like these DNA sequences or any sort of sequence of any sorts has to repeat. You know, it may take infinitely long for these sequences to repeat, but you're going to get very close to all these sequences. There might only be like one single dot that's different, and in another dimension, you know, like me being a male and this individual being a female, for example, and that's like the small difference, but everything else that occurs is the same, you know. So that is essentially what happens. And I believe you keep doing it until you get it right. And I believe that goes for every last like human on this earth. And that I hope that kind of like calms down some of these women, because I know how you feel, and this is absolutely like ridiculous. And I'm a very medical individual. I'm a very logical individual. I like thinking about things, even if I seem illogical half the time. And the doctor inside of me, like the doctor persona inside of me, comes out, and I will try to help these children, whether I like them or not. But that's about as far as it goes, which is partially why I'm making this video and bringing attention to it, because, you know, maybe then some of these children may get fixed genetically, or just future children, because everyone is aware of what is occurring and how this all like kind of ties together, and that will protect the children and everybody else. But kind of I feel like as like a compromise, he cannot, for me essentially putting this out there and helping me fix these children, that he cannot have any contact with them whatsoever, like ever again. Not the mothers, not anybody ever like in this area. Just, you're going to be with me, you're going to be with me, and you're going to be with our children, because I don't want my children around these children. Not because I have a problem with these children. Like, I do not have a problem with children. I love children. I just don't like that. And I didn't sign up for this. And it's fucked up. It hurts my feelings. It makes me very sad. It disgusts me down to my core, honestly. And honestly, I wish I could give some like eggs up myself. I wish I could give the same amount of eggs up and have that many children be born that are mine. You know, the same amount of children that he has, I would like my eggs to be used to create that amount of children, and other people carry them. You know, if that's the case. I am a smoker, but I do have healthy children. The only like little thing was clearly this minor biffy on her, but I was also like abused slightly during my pregnancy, so it was some of these pregnancies were very rough, so due to the circumstances, and maybe that's also part of the reason why. So just keep that in mind. But I feel like that's the only like fair thing in a case like that. And then maybe I can accept everything and all the children like they're my own, you know. But that has to occur first. The problem with some of these men and the women covering this up, like, you're honestly kind of like sick people, if you want to know the truth. It's kind of very deranged, and I get vibes from this dude that I talk to, like, for real. Like, I get like heavy vibes from this dude, and like he hasn't left my mind since I talked to him, and clearly he has like 11 children. Like, the reason it concerns me is because how do I know that the people who are supporting this, you know, and these donations and all this stuff that are hiding all of this, you know, covering it up like a quilt, you know, all these quilts, they really love quilts here, don't they? And that the issue is that it's all about money. The world is usually about money, and that includes having a bunch of children and genetics, because you might be able to get like money through these children, and like that's, I'm assuming, how CPS and DCS and all these judges and police tie into it also. You know, like if there's somebody that's not going to comply, they're going to give it to the family that, you know, they can generate the most amount of money from, because they want to get paid, and these families, you know, clearly want to get paid for all these children. You get a lot of money through such children. And it's like a money market, like an underground money market, using these children and having so many children, and because, you know, you can like rely on the government and all little things like that. And how do I know that in some cases they're not even hurting children on purpose, or like, you know, using them as test subjects or something like that to and like killing them, using these organizations and making them sick on purpose to for some reason generate more money or something like that. This is all underground, so like, who knows, right? Like, I don't know. And you know, like, I believe that genetic altering and that the entire gene pool, like the entire world, should be required to get a DNA test, honestly, so you can get a full, just legitimate database, since this is like not just locally, since there's also people from other countries like Canada, India, you know, like et cetera, you know, there's people from other countries also, and you want to keep track of all of this, including inside of these local groups. And while it's not a bad thing, like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing necessarily, like, you know, it's not a bad thing to try to want to help someone have children, but it can, if it's underground, quickly turn into a bad thing. And I feel like that just in general, sperm donations, if you're going to be a sperm donor of any sorts, that you, whether legal, you know, like through a legal facility, or even underground, in an illegal underground, you know, like network, that all the donors, whether male and or female, need to expose themselves. Like, you can't be anonymous, number one, because we don't ever want a scenario like the following occurring, where for some reason you get married and have children, and then I donated a bunch of sperm, and now I have all these children running around that my spouse didn't know about, or I donated my eggs. that's why it's so concerning, because you really don't know. And it needs to be disclosed. I feel like before marriage, this needs to be like a law or rule that if you have ever donated such or have other children or anything of the sort, if you've ever donated your eggs or sperm, it should be required by law that you tell whoever you're in a relationship with, so that they are not surprised, because that would indicate like fraud and stuff. It would indicate really bad things otherwise. And I like knowing the truth, and I like knowing details. So, like, I am all for population control. Clearly the population needs to be controlled, because if it's up to the just random individuals part of a population, you clearly see what they start doing. They start doing these free donations, and then they have 1,000 kids, and none of it is getting kept track of. The potential incest, the potential birth defects it may cause, just the emotional problems it may cause. This is really messed up, and it's not right. And I consider myself the personification of God, the devil, and also God, Father, Death. Like, all three of them. To me, they're all the same. God allows poverty, God allows bad to exist, and then the devil gives you the pleasure and all the fun stuff, and then just death is neutral. It doesn't discriminate against anybody or any single soul. Everybody's the same, and that's how I feel about it. But God loves all of God's children. All of God's children. It doesn't matter where they came from, and thus God is extremely forgiving, and God wants the individual to know this, but at what cost it comes. If for some reason all this is true, and this individual needs to communicate with me and work something out with me, because this is a big problem. This is not okay. I do not want anyone involved in this to go to jail. Like, it would literally be like half the world that needs to go to jail. That's not the way to go. I believe this is an opportunity to change the entire system and change the rules and how society as a whole just like operates. Like, this is an opportunity to catch up with today's times and what is occurring, especially with all this digital media and stuff that makes such interactions so much easier. And I feel like all these social media sites who are supporting this also need to be held responsible for this. Like I said, nobody needs to go to jail, but the entire just world system, starting out with the United States, needs to be altered immediately to prevent something like this from ever occurring again, and to begin regulating it so that nobody is surprised and that it is controlled, because the population needs to be controlled. There's only so many resources. They're building houses everywhere. They're cutting everything down. Earth doesn't necessarily need more humans, like, and maybe in some areas it does, but just in general, no. You don't need to keep breeding and all of these children that are getting born in one area then start having these genetic defects, and that's like a problem for just the entire world. You can't have a bunch of like incest and birth defects going on. You want like a master race. You want a master race where every last individual and human on this earth is genetically at the best that they can possibly be, and that's almost kind of like playing God, because you're altering these genetics, you're creating, you're destroying, and it's absolutely just trippy. And I feel like the top, like above, is trying to make everyone aware of all of this slowly, like the public, by trying to release these Epstein files and then not releasing them, and then et cetera, et cetera. It's because they were waiting on exactly this. They were waiting on me, and they were waiting on exactly this, and they wanted it to be exposed. I feel like a lot of people have prayed for this to be exposed, including people who are part of this, because I feel like they don't want to keep holding in all these secrets. I feel like it's eating them alive, and I can help them with that. I'm a very like emotional person. I am very like, I can justify literally almost anything, and I can help people with the extra emotional damage that they may be carrying. Like, I can show you a different way to view it if necessary, to make it better, and to make whatever internal suffering like inside your head emotionally stop. I feel like that my husband needs me. I don't know why I get this feeling, but I feel like he needs me, and I feel like he's rejecting me. I feel like he wanted me to figure this out, and I feel like he needs me. And I would like to raise the children together with my husband, despite everything that has occurred. It can never occur again, like a single time. None of the abuse, none of the yelling, no taking the phone, no, trying to be like controlling or anything like that. Like, the more honest you are with me, the more I will work with you, like, oh, hey, one of my potential children has a birthday party on this day. I would like to go to it. Oh, okay, if I know about it, then we can get our children ready and go, and they can just have fun and play. But if you lie about it and fake my children just so that you can be around these other children without me knowing, like, nah, bruh, like, that's not gonna work. And if you chose me and you selected me to have children with me, knowing that you potentially had all these other children through sperm donations, then you're going to have to choose me all the way, me and my children, all the way. Doesn't matter if you have 14 other kids, like, it doesn't matter. And like I stated before, I would like my eggs to be taken, like the same amount of potential children this individual has. I would like my eggs to be taken and make it equal. Like, I feel like that's only fair. It's the only way I'll be fully honestly okay with it, because this is like tripping me out. Honestly, I know I'm being like super calm and like cool about it, but like, it's honestly kind of intriguing and interesting to me. Like, my mind is blown. And like, I knew this for quite some time. Like, I had suspicions, but I never had like proof. I was never sure. And then like just the other day, when I realized like the sperm donation bank and all this stuff, and I like put two and two together, I was like, holy fucking shit, like, what the fuck is going on here? And that's when it like got tied together in like a nice little bow tie. And I need help taking care of these children. I need help taking care of my children. I would like you to be there. I do not want my parents nor your parents to be part of it, honestly, if you want to know the truth. but at the same time, you've screwed me over so bad. Part of me just wants to like go off into the world and like focus on myself and like a career, you know, having to do with the world, you know, the economy. Hopefully, we can get something worked out with Dyson. Just all of this, you know. I feel like a lot of rich people are doing this, but the thing is that the rich people who are doing this, they're probably using more legitimate methods, and that their children are probably spread out more around the world versus like here locally or in like local areas where this is occurring, where they're all just like kind of poor and staying in one area. It's a major problem, and I feel like that's why Jeffrey Epstein, like a few years ago when COVID and all this happened, was to try to slowly over the years kind of like make everyone aware of this, you know, and to change how the society works. And we need everybody's support. You know, we need everybody to support us. You know, I understand that this may be twisted, and what I'm concerned about a little bit with these groups is the only people I feel like should get in trouble are people who potentially may have messed with a child and had a child with a child using these free sperm donation sites, and they're potentially being a child on this site. And if whoever this individual was, let's say they're 15, 16, 17, they were on this site, somehow got trafficked, and then met up with one of these dudes and got pregnant and did not want this, then the individual needs to be in trouble. Like, they need to face some sort of consequence because it was not consensual in that case. The consent makes all like the difference, I feel like, in this. And it appears that a lot of these people clearly are looking for this and consenting to this. So that is to keep in mind. But then there's people like me, you know, like wives or spouses or even husbands when it comes to egg donations. And like, if you don't know about this, you did not consent to this, nor did you, you know, like that affects you. And I feel like these sperm donations, these free sperm donations and genetic sites and all this stuff is not taking that into consideration, how it may negatively potentially affect, you know, if they have spouses or other real children that are their children that they're raising. Like, it's really messed up. Stop being selfish. Stop thinking that your DNA is like the master DNA that needs to be spread everywhere. It doesn't. And clearly a lot of these DNAs, not all, but a lot of them clearly have some sort of health issues that are occurring, and this needs to be like stopped in its tracks before it gets any worse. This is not okay. If anybody has any like questions or wants any more information or would like to talk to me about it or has solutions of their own that they would like to share, please share in the video. Like, if you have any sort of comment of any sorts, like, please come talk to me. I am here. We can fix this. We can help the children get better that may be affected, and but all of this needs to be tracked public. The more people come out of the woodworks, you know, just like grow some balls. Like, some of these people like who are hiding this shit, just grow some balls. Just, you know, like tell your wife or spouse. You might be surprised. She'll either be super mad and fucking leave and be like a super bitch, or she might like surprise you and be like, oh, okay, you know, like, I can fuck with this, I can deal with this, you know. Like, it's all about honesty, and most women, that's exactly what they're looking for, because it like shows you are committed, it shows that you're there, it shows that you love them and respect them, you know, because you are honest with them, no matter how hurtful it may be. And that is equal to love, you know. Like, yes, I can love this, you know, I can love this individual if they're honest with me, and if they select me and my children, you know, like, I can, and I can forgive them, and it is what it is. I can also forgive their mother, but their mother has to also look me in the eyes and tell me exactly what the deal is, and how she could disrespect me like this, and she knows. I will forgive you also. I need to know everything, good or bad, including involving my children, just anything, like, just be honest. I wish me and this individual had our own house. I feel like if we had our own house, it would have fixed like half of this problem, because a lot of people around us had like their hands in this, and I feel like they were trying to purposefully separate us, and like it was forced. Like, this individual was forced to continue doing what they were doing somehow, and like if they didn't like comply, somebody was going to tell me. And this is a lot of emotional like damage that someone is carrying, and it was transferred over to me, this emotional damage. And it's taken me a while, but I can stabilize it and deal with it. So like, I can help this individual, my husband, deal with this also. He just needs to like fucking talk to me. Like, this is retarded. Oh my god. I'm scared I'm gonna get in a lot of trouble for making this video. I am also scared that someone's gonna come after me because I make this video. I hope not. If something were to ever happen to me, then everybody knows that it probably has to do with this. And I hope not. And I hope that I can completely just like Uno reverse and change my life and flip it upside down and just completely change my situation for myself and my children. I beg, like, please God, please, because this is not cool. This is really not cool. If for some reason like this underground sperm donation things becomes like a legitimate and regulated thing, I would like to be part of it. Like the genetics sector of it, keeping track of all of this, like, you know, the population, the world, just anything of the sorts. When it comes to that, I would like to be part of it and help make changes for everybody involved to alter it for the better. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help and make it better, you know, and because I myself am apparently part of this without realizing it, and was tied into this, and now this is me dealing with it. So like, I don't mess around. And you can't hide stuff from me. Like, I'm a conspiracy theorist. That's all I ever do is research, and you cannot. Like, what is everybody doing? This is not cool. So, like, I notice a lot of people like sharing all their information about their children, and they like post every little milestone, everywhere they're located and everything on like Facebook. Like, you know, people post photos and they're trying to like brag or whatever, you know, show off their life. Who knows what they're trying to do, you know, like get social approval, I guess, get these likes. And in other words, you know, like the traffickers and these people are watching, and they're watching your children and everything, and it's really creepy. If you ask me, it's just like when I have looked through photos and compared and contrast photos of these children and stuff online, and this is like a public warning, you know, be careful what you post, including especially about your children, you know. in a sense, you know, it keeps them safe and it keeps them in the limelight. And so, like, you know, everybody knows, like, and if something were to happen, oh, you know, like, you can kind of see that they post online, but also be aware that there is people watching that shouldn't be watching, and they might be looking at all these posts and photos, and it's really I want just the government or whomever to know this one single thing. If all of this is true, and my husband were to have a bunch of other children, and if time travel were possible, and I would much rather, if it is ever possible in the future, if it is possible now and it's just classified information, just, I beg you, please let me time travel. Let me time travel so none of this ever, like, happens. Please, I beg you, because I do not want to share my children with a bunch of other random, like, children. Like, it just, no, I'm sorry. I would much rather time travel if I had the choice to this. There's nothing in this world that could ever make up for something like this bad, because I was just fucked over that bad. And the reason why is, like, the fucking tattoos, and I'm assuming you're going to try to cover them up now, but I got photos and videos of them, so it's all good. I got DNA of this individual, so it's all good. Like, they can run if they want to, and I already have their DNA, along with having photos and videos of these tattoos that they had at the time in case they try to deny them and cover them up. And so I'm just going to go ahead and, like, state this, because a lot of these people seem to have, like, identifying tattoos. And these tattoos were, like, meant to mock me, and I will send, like, a little text. Like, I'll show you where I explained it to this, like, donor dude. Like, I kind of, like, told him my story, and I explained it to him, like, about the tattoos also. And like, please, the person I have children with appears to be not a nice individual, and he never even liked me, and, like, just wanted to literally, like, fuck up my life and run off. Like, he wanted money or some shit. Like, I don't know what he wanted, but it wasn't a good thing. And the only way I would ever believe him otherwise is if none of this is true, number one, which and number two, like, you know what you have to do. That means covering up your tattoos with me present, and I get to pick what gets to be the cover up. That's the only way that it'll be ever okay. The reason I feel like time travel is real, and that the government is involved, and, like, I keep talking about these AIs and these algorithms, like, foretelling me stuff, and, like, it being, like, really trippy. That includes, like, whatever, like, is occurring right here was, like, foretold to me somehow, like through all these algorithms and the AI. And I think the government was the one doing it. They must have been, like, whoever is, like, these creators of these, like, things, you know. Was it you, Mr. Musk? Like, are you, like, a secret time traveler or something? Like, are you, like, a time traveler, and that's why I'm, like, doing all this? Because, like, not everything was foretold, but, like, whatever I happen to remember, like, because you don't, it's vaguely and, like, indirectly, like, stated, you know. You just get a feeling, and, like, this is really weird. It really makes me, like, question, is time travel real? Have I time traveled before? Because it sure does seem like it sometimes, and that sounds, like, really crazy, and why would anybody ever believe you, you know? But, like, honestly, can you, like, physically prove to me, that I have not been in the past and or future? Like, there were signs everywhere, and somebody was involved with this. Like, somebody knew all of this. It wasn't just like this was, like, a setup. And who was manipulating my algorithms like this? Like, there was just certain things that were just very specific. Like, there was some sort of, like, PSYOP program, or some sort of, like, CIA program or something, you know, like, that they're testing out. This is what this is. This is what it feels like. And this is kind of what it looks like too, I guess. Like, if somebody had a plan, they could do it through somebody else, almost, using all these various methods. Because there's various forms of gang stalking, not just local ones. And as, you know, was brought up, I tag Elon Musk and the president and the White House and the FBI and the CIA, and they're going to see this video too. You tell me, guys. So I'm over here thinking, like, oh my god, you know, like, so not only is all this stuff being foretold to me by, like, the algorithms and stuff like that, which is, like, super trippy, by the way, you know, because, like, how do they know this? You know, whoever's showing me all this stuff on all these different, like, websites and stuff like that, like, these things that get suggested to me, like, it's almost like foretelling me certain things. But of course, at the time, how would I know that it's doing that? You know, I wouldn't be aware of this, you know, only after whatever these incidents are that it, you know, like, foretold, like, a year later, sometimes, like, a year and a half later, so, like, is when they, like, happen. So, like, I just happen to have a good memory, and that's why, like, I remember half this stuff, and, like, I'm like, oh god. But then this is what makes me believe in time travel, just ultimately. The tattoos. It's the tattoos. Because, like, it's also the tattoos. Because because, like, how would you have these for tattoos, like, on your arm on top of this? Like, it was, like, foretold, okay? And, like, that right there is, like, really trippy. That's what's, like, tripping me out. And like I keep trying to ask the government, like, hey, like what's going on here? Like you're not only is all this stuff getting foretold to me like online like a year or two in advance of something occurring. I don't remember all of it, but some of it. And then it actually somewhat happens in my real life on top of then these tattoos, which were put onto this, I guess, individual like right before they met me. And like these tattoos were like the friends' idea. Whoever these friends are, that I have seemingly never have seemed to have met, suggested for this individual to suddenly get these tattoos. And it's kind of weird, isn't it? Like, how would they know this? Like, are they time travelers too? Like, like, how would you be able to know that shit happens? That I would have 2 kids, that, hot air balloon, and like the ghosting clearly that's occurring. Like, I'm just like, whoa, this is like trippy this is so trippy. Like, if time travel is real, like, I really totally want to time travel. Because, like, this is trippy. Yeah.